My experience with hauling high value loads, they're a pain. I will say that right off. I've hauled a few different types of high value loads: cigarettes, money, and pharmaceuticals. And I know right off a lot of people will call bullshit on hauling money in a regular tractor trailer, but it does happen. And I didn't realize it happened either until I got dispatched to do it. And it makes sense, really, if you think about it, because 45,000 pounds worth of quarters or pennies or nickels or dimes would take a hell of a lot of loads for armored trucks. So basically what happens with that is you pick it up all in one load. So you might have, $250,000 worth of pennies, or, $500,000 worth of quarters or something in your trailer. And you do multiple stops and supply all the armored car depots so that they can break it down there and then put it onto their armored cars and take it out and distribute it to the banks and the stores and whoever needs it, right? And that's how that gets done. Those are, really, I guess people will rob you for $10, but who's really going to hijack a load of quarters or nickels or dimes? That'd be a real pain in the ass. The cigarettes, if you think about an entire truckload of cigarettes, because they don't weigh very much and you can fill the truck right full of them. It's millions and millions of dollars worth of cigarettes. Pharmaceuticals, it kind of depends on what they put in the trailer. Really, as far as theft goes and cargo theft goes, it's really not the things that you think would be stolen. So technically, if you look at the statistics, food products are the highest stolen freight out there. But when it comes to pharmaceuticals, even Viagra, there's a market for Viagra. Google it. There's a black market for Viagra, and it's worth quite a bit. I personally know people who sell Viagra pills. They get the prescription and sell the pills because guys don't want to go to the doctor and admit that they have a problem with it, so they just buy the pills without a prescription. So if you had a whole truckload of Viagra, how much would that be worth? But when you get into the heavier shit, like oxycodone, Vicodin, things like that, they get pretty damn serious about it. You have armed guards that are following you, and when you get to the facilities, you have full-on, gates and armed guards. And I'm not talking, the guy that you see with his pants sagging half down his ass and a gun barely hanging off his hip. Generally, the places that I went, they both have handguns on their hips, and one will have like an AR-15 or something. And they're probably ex-military or something. They're in shape. They'll probably fuck you up. And they take that shit real seriously. And the real hassle with it is the cigarettes are the same, and the pharmaceuticals are the same as far as this goes. When you pick up the load, you got to do like a 200-mile radius is generally what they say. And that means as soon as you leave out of the shipper, you can't stop for 200 miles. Because their theory is people are too lazy to follow you for 200 miles. I don't know about all that. If you were going to have enough balls and be big enough in the crime world to steal a truckload of something, 200 miles probably wouldn't bother you a whole lot. But from a truck driver perspective, it's kind of a pain in the ass, because if you, obviously you need to eat and go to the bathroom and do all this stuff before you leave. And a lot of times they don't have bathroom facilities available for you. It's kind of a shit show. And then if you do have the tails, obviously you got somebody tailing you the whole time, which is kind of weird. And you can't stop. Majority of them, I think almost all of them I've ever done, are like non-stop. They're like pre-planned. They're either like 7-hour drives or 10-hour drives or something, to where they want you to go 100% straight through. Now you do end up stopping, because you got to stop and take a piss at least. At least you're gonna have to do that. So they tell you not to. Myself, I just always never stopped in the first 200 miles. So at first, it can be a little exciting. I gotta admit that. Like when I first started hauling pharma, it was kind of interesting. I was like, it's kind of exciting versus just boring old trucking. But day in, day out, it's just a real pain in the ass. Everything's super tight, scheduled tight. You got apps following you, you got people calling you, and it's just a real pain in the ass. The only benefit to it is they know you're coming. They already know what you look like. They know your name, what truck you're in. They got a picture of you, all that, because they want to know, who's coming into the facility. So when you roll in, I mean, literally a lot of times when you roll in, the dock door just opens up and that guy points at the dock and you back up and you don't really ever see what's in the trailer. But like when you get that green light and the guy comes out and tells you to pull forward, if you pull forward and two guys already got your door shut and sealed before you even get a chance to walk to the back of the trailer, there's something in there that's worth a lot. Because they don't even want you to see it. And then they'll do the same thing when you get to the place. They'll have a couple guys out there. You come back, you take your lock off, and no matter, and get your lock off, and they're busting the seal and opening the doors and kind of ushering you back up to the front of the truck to back it in. And the bottom line of all of it, you don't get paid anymore for it. If anything, my experience with it, I got paid less than what I do running just regular freight, because there's so much hassle and so many strings and red tape and all this shit you have to deal with. It slows you down. And honestly, I've had times where I slept on a load. I've had a load in there and I wasn't quite sure what was in there, and it makes you a little nervous. I mean, I got used to it, basically just kind of gave it to God. But I strap my door shut with a ratchet strap and I watch where I park. And that's kind of another thing with the pharmaceutical as well. They don't want you parking in rest areas. You got to be in a truck stop. And they prefer that you back up to another truck or to a pole or something like that, and it's just kind of a lot of bullshit. And I'll tell you what really got me one time is I delivered a load, and it must have been something real high value, because to me it was basically a legal drug deal, and it really was, I guess, because of the fact that when I got there, you just got these dudes in SUVs all meeting up, and basically what was going on is the pharmaceutical company was meeting with the buyers, and then the distributors were all there, and they were doing a deal on this load. So it was basically just like a drug deal, right? It's just legal. And I really don't give a fuck, I'm just a truck driver. I'm just hauling the load there. I got it there. Well, then they want me out on the dock, and they're very strange about it. I had that happen a couple times. So when I would go to open my doors on the trailer, the guards would put their hands on their guns. They were ready for people to be inside the trailer. And that's kind of the same thing at the armored car places. They search your whole truck. I mean, they look in the fuel tanks for some reason. I've never figured that out. All the places look into the fuel tanks. I don't know if they think maybe they're hollowed out and there's somebody inside them. Just thought about that. Maybe that's it. They look under the bunk, they look up, they take a mirror and they go up underneath the trailer. It's kind of like delivering and picking up at prisons. I've done that before too, and they're pretty secure there. In this particular situation, I was standing on the dock, they were counting up the load, they were doing their thing, and then the one guy looked at the other guy and said, he can go because everything that he said was there is there. And it got me to thinking about it, and I thought, what do you mean I can go? What the fuck? Why can I not go, And then I realized, like, oh, yeah, okay, I see. I'm responsible for this load, right? So if you really stop and think about it, let's say I pick up a load of whatever, and I get down the road and I get hijacked with this load. Let's say I get lucky, they don't kill me, they don't fuck me all up or anything. Do you think that they're just gonna let me go? And I'm just going to go on and pick up another load or go home? No. I've watched enough of these crime TV shows, and I'm sure you probably have as well, to know that they're going to think that I'm in on it. Because why wouldn't you, right? So I'm going to be going to the police station, I'm going to be detained, I'm going to be questioned and interrogated to find out if I know anything about it and if I had anything to do with it. So I'm basically going to be guilty until I prove myself innocent that I didn't have anything to do with it. Why? Why? Why would I want to fucking do that? If I can just go haul a load of toilet paper or a load of steel or something like that nobody gives a shit about. They also have set places in the United States that give you a map are bad. They're bad places. Like, we all know Memphis is bad. We all know Detroit's bad. Miami, you gotta watch Miami. Shit like that. So if you can't make it all the way into the receiver and park in their secure compound, then you gotta stay out like 150 or 200 miles, whatever the radius is. So that kind of sucks, because you might still have a few hours left on your clock for the day, and you gotta shut down because you can't completely make it in there. Then you get into the COVID-19 vaccine. That's what really killed me on the whole deal. You're exempt for that. So if it takes them 6 hours to load you and it's a 700-mile drive, it doesn't matter. It goes straight 700 miles. So if it takes you 13 hours or whatever, 12 hours to drive, obviously that's only an hour over on your logbook. No big deal as far as the exemption goes and all that. But if you've already been sitting there all day waiting 6 to 8 hours to get that vaccine on, and it's not like you can go to sleep because you just woke up, you slept last night at the truck stop or at their facility, then now you're running into an extremely long day, like a 20-hour day. And every once in a while, yeah, whatever. But you're doing that shit every week, like I was there with the vaccine. It was just killing me. I do have to say on that vaccine deal, to be pragmatic about it, who in the fuck is going to steal the vaccine? Like Russia or something? Like, what are you even going to do with it if you do steal it? Are you going to go stand on the corner and be like, hey man, come here, I got some vaccine. Want some vaccine? The fuck? What are you going to do with a fucking vaccine? And like, how would you do it? That's a whole nother thing with all these loads, is you get like your big heavy lock. They got cameras in the trailer. They got alarms on the doors. The trailers are obviously tracked because most trailers are nowadays anyway. You got air cuffs that go over your tractor and your trailer valves inside the truck. And then you got glad hand locks. And technically what they want you to do is, if you stop and you're going to run into Wendy's and get something to eat real quick, they want you to air cuff your valves inside the tractor, glad hand lock your glad hands, shut off the truck, lock the truck up, and go inside. Myself, if I was going to take a shower and I knew that I was going to be in there for like a half hour or more, I would obviously shut the truck off, lock the truck up, and I would air cuff the valves. But I didn't fuck around with the glad hands. That doesn't make much sense because I was kind of raised in a little bit of a thuggish environment when I was young. And one thing you learn about that shit is just keep everything on the down low, right? So if you see me in the truck stop out there putting glad hand locks on my trailer so I can run inside, don't that kind of make you think there's something in that trailer that you might want? It never made no sense to me, even not to mention it's a real pain in the ass. So I would cuff it for things like that. But even at night, they wanted it cuffed. And that didn't make any sense to me either. Because if shit was about to hit the fan, a lot of my defense is the fact that I'm mobile. So if I wake up in the middle of the night and someone's trying to get in my truck or shit's going down, my best avenue might be to just release the brakes and drive the fuck on down the road, I don't want them brakes locked up where I can't get to them. And I wouldn't even shut the truck off myself because that way it's already all aired up and ready to go. And that's my take on that. I wouldn't mess with the high value loads.